Hi guys, Spink here. This is a tutorial for Ageod Civil War 2. And this tutorial is going to cover modding. And what modding is changing the files of the game in order to customize it to suit whatever your preferences are. This is the default look of the game. And if you've been watching my Let's Learn series, this may look slightly different to you. The map colors are much more vibrant. The flags are waving, and the Confederate flag looks different. And that's because I have modded my game very slightly, nothing significant. I wanted to keep it as close to stock as I could basically stand. One of the things I also changed is just thunk, 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 thunk when you go through units here. So let's take a look at what a modded game might look like. I've installed this game twice, once through Steam and once through the normal buy it and install it route. So this has got a few mods installed. The most noticeable is an interface mod. Are we doing anything? That I found on the Ageod forum. And if we go out to the forums for Ageod, here we see there's a mod forum. And there's a mod called the Interface, an interface mod by a gentleman named Picaron, or Picoron, or however we pronounce it. I believe this is the same link regardless of the language here. Well, maybe not. It might be different. I'm not entirely sure. But I grabbed this this one here and several other mods off of this site, and we'll look at that from time to time. So anyway, back to what I was talking about. See, here is the default, and you can see a very vibrant map. You can see the waving flags, and the version that I use or have been using, the map colors are much more subdued. The flags are not waving. I just think that's a little distracting. So I found a way to get rid of it, and the Confederate national flag is changed to this other flag, which I'm told is more appropriate for the time period, the one that's actually used in the game. I've read, if I recall correctly, is something that was adopted quite late in the war by the Confederacy. Anyway, this we also have this this interface mod that has a look much more similar to what the previous iteration of the game was. It had the wood grain and the decorative bits and the little iron thingies on the edges and whatnot. I didn't want to go to this extent because I did want to keep the game looking as close to stock as possible for the purposes of doing my videos. But this is the full interface mod done by this gentleman, which is quite nice. I like the kind of the parchmenty thing here. So how do we make this happen? And more importantly, how do we undo it so that we can get it back to the stock look when we need to? Well, that's what this video is about. So first of all, I use a program called the JoneSoft Generic Mod Enabler. This is several years old. I don't know when this was actually written. 2003 by Jason Jones here. This web page that it references here is no longer valid. I think it's been out of active development for some time, probably since 2010. I believe it was originally this gentleman originally developed it for Silent Hunter 3, if I recall, from back in the day when I did a little bit of modding with that. But what it lets you do, we have a list here of available mods and a list of activated mods. And what it does is every time you activate a mod, it will take the existing files that this mod is going to overwrite, and it will back them up into a backup directory, so that when you uninstall the mod, it will take the files that mod had overwritten, and it will restore the version that was there prior to that. And if this particular mod, say, modified a file, and then we took another, well, this one, my interface that I was messing with. See, this modifies some of the same files that were done by this previous mod. So now this mod's grayed out. We can't uninstall it without uninstalling this one first. So if I uninstall this one, it will restore the files that are appropriate for this one, and then if I uninstall that one, it will go back and install the files that were the stock files, assuming none of these prior mods had taken it. So let's see how we set this whole thing up. I have 2 versions of the game installed, as I said. The first thing we need to do is find the root directory for the game itself, the install directory. And I have a games folder that I install all my games to. The programs files directories has some security associated with it, so I don't like to install my games to those, so I have a separate folder that I install my games with. Here's the Civil War II that I installed. This is if you buy the standalone from Matrix Games or from Slytherin or from Ageod. I think you can buy it from Ageod. I don't remember. I've had mine for some time. It might have been originally through Matrix, I don't recall. But then Matrix and Slytherin merged, and now it's through Slytherin, and now it's also on Steam, so things get a little complicated. But anyway, here is our root directory that we're going to care about. And if we have the Steam version of it, we'll go to Steam, Steam Apps, Common, and that's where our games are installed. And rather than having to dig through that all the time, I just took a shortcut of the Common folder and just bang, so I can get right to it without having to use any of my brains. Okay, so let's find the root directory. Now the Steam one, I've already got the GSGME already installed in, and I have several mods in, and some of them are installed. You can see in the backups there's all kinds of things that are backed up in here, so I'll explain how those work here. We're going to go back to this other version of the game, the non-Steam version, that's still pristine. So I've downloaded JoneSoft Generic Mod Enabler, and I'll throw a link for that in the description. I'm going to have to find out exactly where it's available from now, since the original author's site isn't up. But it's out there in various sites, so I'll find it, and I'll stick a link to it in here. Okay, so I'm going to copy it actually to here. Now we can run the setup from here and direct it to wherever, but I find it's just easier to throw it into whatever the root directory of the game that I want to mod is. This program can be used to mod any game. About the only thing that I don't use this for modding purposes is the games that use like the Steam Workshop or something like that. I don't use those. So let's run that, and we'll install into this directory. Create a desktop icon. I like to do that. Okay, and it's done. Now this online user guide, I believe, is no longer valid. Let's see. Yes, that's no longer valid. Okay, so we've got this installed. We have a nice little icon for it here. We have the icon for our game. Oh, here's a quick tip. Whether you're running the Steam version or the non-Steam version, it pulls up a little menu thing here first that you can do stuff in, and has some annoying clicky noises. The Steam version has something similar, but it's a slightly different format, a little bigger. And from my experience, I can't get the game to actually run from this through Steam. So this is what I do. I go again to this the game directory, and the CW2 executable itself, I'll send a shortcut to that to the desktop here, and then I'll just delete this old one because, you know, I don't care. I don't use it from there. This skips that little menu thing and drives you directly to the game itself. We click that, it'll pop it up directly to loading up the game and skipping that little menu thing. Now this comes up halfway on my screen because it is pulling it up centered, and I have 2 monitors, so that's why it's doing what it does with this. So there we go. So that's how we get to that without going through that little menu thing. I've actually already got it up twice. Let's get rid of all of these. We don't need to have, you know, 3 versions of the game open at once. I hate that sound. Okay, so we've installed JoneSoft Generic Mod Enabler. License. I don't see any thing in here that tells how to use it. There was an online manual, and I think it's no longer there. I'll tell you how to use it. There's also YouTube videos how to use it. There's tutorials on various websites, various games. People have adopted this to be the modding tool of choice. Subsim, I think, uses it quite extensively. That's the website for folks who are into subsims. Okay, so when you first activate this program for the first time, it'll come up and say, hey, where would you like to store your mods? Now, by default it says mods, and that's fine. You can use that. This game does not have a folder called mods, so it would be safe to use. But some games actually will have a mods folder, because games are starting to get a little more mod savvy now. So just to avoid any confusion, I like to call it GSGME mods, so that I know specifically these are my mods. These are exactly what I'm doing, and that'll pull up this this little interface like we're used to. And a good thing to do first, before you do anything else, under tasks, is have it generate a snapshot of the game files. And what it's going to do there, it is actually going to go through and inventory every single file in this game and save off its size, its time, date, timestamp, that sort of stuff, so that when we do change files, we'll be able to run a compare. We'll grab this again and say compare the game files to the snapshot, and it'll tell us what files have changed, if any. And that's also extremely useful if you were about to install a patch. Say you were a modder and it was very important to you to determine what each patch changes in a game. You can use that to say, you know, you do the initial inventory, install the patch, and then run the compare, and it would tell you exactly which files have been updated by that patch. And that's something, if you do your own mods, that's something that's important to you, to keep them updated as patches come along. Okay, so we have this thing working. We have it all set up. Let's do our first mod. Now, the first one I'm going to do is this interface mod by Picarone here. I've downloaded this earlier just from this exact thing here, and I tried this on 12th of December and it works just fine. So let's go to the downloads folder, and we'll take this and we will open it. Take a look. We have the one interface. Oh, excuse me. And then exactly what's in it. We have a installation text in a language that I cannot read, but I know how all this works anyway. So generally, what they like you to do, I just unzipped it to here, actually is where we're at. Let me unzipped it to the thingy. There we go. Actually, let's just completely delete it. There we go. We're going to unzip it. As long as it's in its own folder here, I'm just going to unzip from here. Otherwise, I would unzip it to the title to give it a higher level folder, but we're perfect right here. Okay, so normally what they want you to do when you're installing a mod, and I believe that's what this is telling us here, is they want you to just grab this and copy it here. which works all, perfectly well, except there's no way to undo that. Once you do that, it's done. You can't get back to the original without completely uninstalling the game and reinstalling it. And that's where this comes in. So, in order to prepare a mod for use with the JoneSoft Generic Mod Enabler, we have to ensure that the folder format, the folder structure of the mod is exactly the same as in game. So CW2 is the primary data folder for this game. You'll have to kind of have an understanding of how the folder structure for each individual game works to let you set this up appropriately. So we'll look under here and we have the subfolders. We'll go to our mod. We see we have a front end, we have a front end, we have a graphics, we have a graphics, and we can drill down to ensure that, okay, yeah, this is set up properly for this already, because everything is just as it should be. So what we're going to do, we're going to copy this. Now we can do this two ways. We can copy it and put it in this folder here, or we can just drag and drop it up to here. That works too. Okay, so now we have a mod that we are able to activate. So let's do that first. We'll select the mod and we will enable the mod. And now what it's done, it has taken all of the files within this mod and it has copied them over into our game directory here, and it has overlaid the stock files. But before it did that, it made a copy of the ones that were there before, and it stores those in the backup folder here. And so if you look down in here, you will find the exact same file as was here, but this is the stock version. It copied it here, and then it put as a extension at the end of it the name of the mod that replaced it. So this is the stock file with the name of the mod that replaced it stuck over the end of it, so that when we uninstall this mod, it can use those to restore the original files. And so you can get back to exactly where you were at. Pop back to here. Okay, so let's reinstall that mod, and we can pull it up and see that it works. It's generally a good idea to test each mod individually, so if there are any problems, you'll know which one is the culprit. So we'll bring this up and we'll see that, yep, that looks just like what we were expecting it to look like. It's got that. It's got the ledger stuff. So we have installed our first mod. Now this sound that you hear when you hit these tabs, that just really seemed harsh to me, and I didn't care for that at all. So that was actually the first little mod I made for this game, just for my own use. As I said, is there something I can do about this sound? So what I did, thunk, 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 I went to the directory of this game, Civil War II here, the sounds, and I basically looked through all of these until I found the right sound of what was making that noise. And what I found, it was this BOA select. And I did that basically by just looking through, finding what looked like a possible, was it this one? Pulled it up and, tried it. And just played it to see what it sounded like, to see, is that the one I want? Is that the one I want? And I finally figured out it's this one. It's this BOA select. And I said, I don't care for that sound at all. So what I did to change that is I went looking, as I was looking through these files here, I found this one, Metal Click. And I thought, well, oh, that's nice. Not nearly as harsh. So what I did is I actually took a copy right here. I just basically exactly like this. I copied it to wherever I put it originally, took this BOA select, copied the name, went to my new file, and pasted it over just like that. Now I could take this right now and copy it over here, and that would be a permanent irreversible change. But I thought, well, let's make that into a mod. So I looked at the file structure here, and it says, okay, this is in CW2 sounds. So let's make a folder, and we'll call it sounds. And we'll stick our little guy in there. And that should be in a folder called CW2. So let's make another folder here. We'll call it CW2. Okay, and so now that, that is our full mod right here, because we know we go into CW2 mods. The CW2 is our data directory for this game. Okay, so now we need another folder that is going to be the title folder of this mod. We'll call it sound mod. And then we'll stick this in here. And I'll just drag it up into here, and that's exactly the same as if I copied it into this folder here. And so now we see we have sound mod, CW2, sounds, and then there's our guy. So let's go back to CW2 sounds. Go over here to BOA select. Okay, take sound mod, and there we go. Now let's do it. There's that nice little click. So that is how simple it is to make a mod. And here we can uninstall it, and the original sound has been restored. And we can do this with any of the files in any of this CW2 directory. In fact, it doesn't have to be the CW2 directory. We could make a mod that goes into the docs directory if for whatever reason we do that. If you had multiple directories in your game, that they weren't all in one directory like this. Okay, so there's graphics files. Any of these graphics files we can replace basically any file in here whatsoever. The sounds, graphics and sounds, it's pretty safe to change those. You just want to make sure you're in the same format. Now there's the scenarios. I mean, these, I think they're just text, so we can use Notepad++ here. Open them up, change them, and use the well, scenarios you generally wouldn't do that, but something that's actually controls how the game works, for instance, might be something that you wanted to mod. Say there was something that you just didn't quite like how it worked, so you wanted to change it. You could find the file. That's the hard part, finding the file that does that. And if you have the knowledge of what file it is and what in the file does whatever, you can change any of the files in this game or any other game for the most part, and this all works the same way. In fact, let's take a look at something that I was messing with just the other day. Not in documents, it was in downloads. I was looking for a different file to use for a picture to use for that main menu when you first start the game up. And so I went looking. I just used Google Image, and search for stuff, and here's this nice picture. I think this is at Gettysburg. You get the nice little snake rail fence and a nice mist. I thought, well, that's kind of nice. We can maybe use that. And I found this one. It's I believe it's a screen grab from the movie Gettysburg. So, well, that might be something we can do. And this is I ended up using this as my desktop wallpaper. I liked it so much, but I thought with this logo over here and the photographer's name here, I thought that was maybe not gonna look quite as nice as as the menu picture. So I thought, well, let's use the Gettysburg one here. So first thing we have to do is figure out what file in this in the game controls what that menu is, that menu picture is. So let's go into CW2 graphics, and it helps to kind of have your view up to at least small, no, medium icon, so we can actually see the picture of what it is. So I thought maybe these splash things would something, but that's not. That's the Ageod thingy. Front end, that sounds promising. GUI, okay, GUI, this is what we want. Various, ledger, no. So basic, oh, background. No, this is not the right one. Which one am I in here? Okay. Oh, I've got wood interface in. That's why I was thinking, well, those are not what this looks like. I forgot I had this wood interface installed. Let's uninstall that. Yeah, that's what that looks like. Okay, but anyway, after much looking around, I found it under main menu, down a ways, and here we go. Main menu BG, main menu background. And there's different files for different resolutions, and all I cared about was this one because that's the resolution that I use. So I found it's called main menu underscore BG PNG. So it's a PNG file, and its dimensions, as we see here, are 1920 by 1080. Well, I have a JPEG. I don't have a PNG. If I copied this in here as a JPEG, it wouldn't recognize it as the same file. So I have a ancient version here of Paint Shop Pro that I got way back when. Any graphics editor, and there's a couple good freeware ones, Paint.net and GIMP. They'll be able to do the same thing. So I just brought it in here and did a save as PNG. And while we're at it, let's call it this name. Copy. And we'll call it this. And we'll leave it in the same folder. That's fine. Save. Bing. So now we have the exact file we need to overwrite this file and use this picture as our main menu picture. And again, we do that the same way. We'll make a folder that's GUI main menu inside a front end folder, inside a graphics folder, inside a CW2 folder, inside of a my background folder or whatnot, whatever we would call it. And I happen to have this already. It's actually on the other one, main menu GB. Let's explore. And so we have CW2 graphics front end GUI main menu, and here's just that picture, just saved as a PNG. That's the only thing we had to do to it. And so we could take this one, I called it main menu GB. We'll make a copy of it and paste it here. Now, one thing you do when you do the drag and drop to here, it's a move, it's not a copy. So that's why I made a copy of it first, because I knew it was going to completely take it out. And then watch this over here. Here's our picture that we've got right there. We activate this and boom, it overwrote it, and we can undo it and it'll bring back the original. Hello. Oh, I kicked the wrong button. Come on, there we go. See, and it restores. Easy as that. Any file in the game you can do that with. Let's take a look back at the mods folder here, the mods forum. Let me go back to my original one. This is my Steam version. Whoopsie. I have this, there's a CW2 Ledger mod clean version, and this was made by a fella named Fred Zeppelin. Let's see if I can find it. Fred Zeppelin Ledger UI mod. This is pretty cool too. And this is for the Ledger, and this one doesn't have the wood framing and stuff, but it has a really nice kind of a parchment texture. And what I really like about this one is these red tabs at the bottom. And this wood interface one done by Picarone, it doesn't mod the tabs at all. It just uses the default tabs. So what I like to do when I am using the interface mod, I'll put in this. Sometimes I'll just use this mod standalone, and sometimes, or even if I ever decide I ever want to use this wood interface for whatever reason, I'll put it over top of this Ledger mod here, and it'll give me a warning that says, hey, you're overwriting stuff that's already there. That's fine. And even though this wood interface mod changes all this other stuff, it doesn't change these little red tabs, so those little red tabs I'll get with this other one right here, which I like quite a bit. What else we have here? Flag mod. There is a flag mod. This is how we got the okay, the flag mod is another one that's pretty much a must-have for me. This is one I found, oh, I don't know how long ago. Long enough ago that it's way down here. This was originally made in 2013 in September by a fella named WIJSE, and he took the various flags and made them a little larger and a little more detailed. And this is the one where he also changed the default flag for the CSA. And I thought, well, that's cool. I'll grab that. So I downloaded that and set it up as a mod. And later in my reading through the mod, here was this individual here, Global Explorer, who said, is there a mod that removes flags from the map? So I looked through there now. And this guy didn't like the animated flags. Didn't like that. And various people came in and says, well, you can do this. You can replace it with a blank file and this and that. And this other fella here, EOOQE, said, hey, there's these files that control the flickering flags, and they are these xxx.ini files. And all you have to do is change this value right here, this pace, from pace equals 30 to pace equals 0. So I said, oh, that sounds neat. So I went to this original flag mod here, this map flag mod, and I kind of modified it by adding in those INI files that they were referring to, and then took each one individually and changed that pace down to 0 for each one. And that's how I took this original fella's flag mod and added the additional files required to make the flags not flutter anymore. And so that became the flag mod that I used. Now, I could easily have made that a separate mod, just have one flag. In fact, I did originally. I had this individual's flag mod all by itself, and then I had my own little thing that removed the fluttering, but I just combined them to make it easier. One more thing, we did have the sound mod. I talked about the sound mod. Which is the train, and there was actually, there were two files that ended up that I wanted to replace in here. One of them was that wood click. It was used in places, and I replaced that with the metal click as well, just so I'd have that same sound. I just like it better. And when I started doing the test videos that I was going to do for my original YouTube stuff, I found that the sounds in the game were way too loud for my purposes, and they would, you know, if I move a unit, the big marching sounds would just totally drown out what I was saying, which in some cases was a good thing. But what I did is I took all of the sounds from the sound folder, with the exception of the music, because I wasn't using the music anyway, and I brought them into a sound editor and dropped their volume down. I think it was, I used Gold Wave. It's another sound editor I got a long time ago. It is it's not free. You have to pay for it. There's one called Audacity something. There's free sound editors. There's basically, if you're willing to accept the limitations, there's a free version of pretty much anything. And I dropped the sound level of all of these down to where I can still hear them when I'm doing my videos, but they're not overpowering. And so I've got that. And another one of my must-have mods here. It's called the Terrain mod, and if you recall from the beginning of the video about the map graphics were very bright and vibrant in the stock, and I had in my version they were toned down, and that's because of this mod here. And that's one that an individual did here called the Color Map mod by Pataplouf. Anyway, he took each of these things, each of the map graphics tiles, and desaturated them and had a slightly lighter color in them. And so I thought, oh, that's nice. So I grabbed that as well. And that's one of my must-have mods. The Terrain mod is one that I just have to have it in because the colors are just a little too garish for me. And the maps or the flags, I really like to get rid of the flapping flags. That's not something that particularly appeals to me. So I use that, and the reduced sounds, which I primarily just use for when I'm recording because they're rather loud otherwise. And that's my mod setup for how I do my Let's Learn series. I think that's it. I don't know if there's anything else to cover. Let's do it right now here. generate snapshot. I didn't ever do that with this one. Let's go back to the old one, or the new one rather. Put the wood interface in there. Yes, on top of that. Or if you recall, we did the generate snapshot of game files. Now we can do, well, let's add the sound mod in too so we have more of them. There we go. And now we'll do the compare game files to snapshot. And it'll go through and do that exact same inventory that it did before, and it'll tell you which ones are the same and which ones have changed. So we'll let it do its thing. Bing, and we'll just sort by that, and we can see these are all the files that are different since we last did that snapshot. And that's pretty handy. If you're going to install a patch, you want to uninstall all your mods before you do that. Sometimes Steam doesn't give you the option. You just flip it up one day and suddenly, oh, there's a patch has been installed onto my game, and that can screw up your mods. So what you still want to do is uninstall all your mods after that patch has been installed, and that will get rid of everything and reset the mod enabler. And then go to the Steam, your Steam page, and right click on your game. We'll use Civil War II, but it's the same with any of your games. And this applies if any of your games are possibly giving you trouble. This is something useful to do. Go to the Local Files tab and hit this Verify Integrity of Game Cache. And what that will do is check each of the files of your game and ensure that it's correct, and it will re-download only the files that it needs to get your game right back to the stock look. And that's awfully handy, especially if you've done something in modding and completely got yourself screwed up. It's handy to be able to go back to the original look. If you're not using Steam, if you're using the non-Steam version, essentially what you have to do in that case is uninstall the game and reinstall it. I mean, that's really where you're all at. Okay. What else is there to do? I cannot recommend the Ageod forums highly enough. There's everything you ever wanted to know about this game is here. The people here are knowledgeable. The game designer and coder are on here all the time. There's just a couple guys that made this game. I believe they're brothers. I could be mistaken there though. But if you have any questions on this game, whether it's modding or how the rules work or whatever, I cannot recommend this forum enough, the Ageod forum here. Let's see, is there anything else about modding that we need to know? Only if you should happen to come up with a cool mod that you think anybody else might want to would be interested in, throw a post up on the modding forum and say, hey, here's what I got, and share it with the world. Or if you're looking into getting into modding, there's a lot of information in the modding forum that is really useful and helps you and explains as file structure and what does what and everything. And you really just got to dig in and start messing with stuff to figure out how it works. So I think that's it for this tutorial. We're right about 40 minutes, so it's starting to get a little long. So I think we're going to call this tutorial to a close. Thanks for watching.